Everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Vikas Singh Thakur. For a very long time, I wanted to, do something very special with my humanoid robot on 15th of August, that is India's Independence Day. I want to use one of my robot or the project to host the Indian flag. For many, times before, I really wanted to do this, but due to the academic reason, projects or everything else, going during the BTech year, I never get the chance. But this year I decided, let's actually do it. And of course, I choose my humanoid robot, but the only problem is that the robot is not ready at that time. And it's been, sitting unused for a very long time, and it wasn't even functional anymore. So before I could use or I could make it do anything, I had to bring it back to life. So the first thing I needed was the missing part. I started going through some of my old robot component and trying to figure out which part belongs to the humanoid. I found the arm section, but the forearms and the other, few other components were missing. So I need to look for those. So the first challenge was simply finding all the pieces. And for the base part, I had another idea. So I wanted the robot to move around while carrying the flag. So I needed a base that could handle a lot of weight. So I found this heavy duty chassis which I have built on my first year for another project. Because the humanoid is also quite tall, so keeping the center of mass very low is very important, as a heavier base would reduce the chance of robot to topple over while moving or operating the arm. So the plan was simple: take the humanoid body, mount it on top of the mobile chassis, and turn the whole thing into a mobile humanoid robot. So once I had the upper body partially assembled, it was time to take everything to our idea lab at our college. But of course, the weather had other plans. It started raining heavily and I have a lot of electronics to transport. So I used some of the waterproof sheet to protect some of the electronics, especially the drone component, and somehow managed to get everything ready for transportation. So this is our college where I completed my BTech, and honestly I really like this place because you are getting a lot of tons of technical facilities and different opportunities, like if you really want to build things around. So the first project I started working was on my drone because I hadn't used it in a very long time, and I had to update the firmware, recalibrate everything, and get the motor working again. So I was using Pixoc and Mission Planner to control the BLDC motor, and after a lot of trials and error and some help from my friends, I finally got it working. Everything looks great, and until I actually took it outside for a test, and during the test I noticed something was wrong, that is with the frame. So when I look closely, there was a small crack on the the frame part, which is making the entire drone just vibrate around. So when the drone started gaining some altitude, the entire frame begins vibrating very heavily. And honestly, this was scary. A vibrating drone at altitude is not something you want to mess around with. So I tried another test, but unfortunately when I took it slightly higher, the frame collapsed and the battery holder broke. And at that point I decided, that's it, the drone project is done for today. So I clearly needed to rebuild the frame properly, probably with using strong aluminum structure. So unfortunately, the drone wasn't going to be the part of Independence Day project, but I definitely wanted to be included, on the surroundings. So I will try to put it, close to the robot. So after that, I moved on to the another robot project that I have been working on. I will make a detailed video about this robot later, but here's a quick look. Right now I'm controlling it using my Fly Sky transmitter receiver, but eventual plan is to make it autonomous using ROS and LiDAR, which will take almost a week. So that is very easy part, I can do that. So the robot is mostly 3D printed with aluminum extrusion for the additional strength. And the idea is to build a general purpose robot that can perform useful tasks without requiring a huge number of actuators. So this was the basic idea for building this robot. But by this point, the entire day has already passed and my humanoid robot's still at home. So I had to go back and figure out how to transport this huge heavy robot to the lab. So initially I thought about renting an electric auto, but luckily my father came back home and we have an van available. That saved me. We loaded the humanoid robot into the van and finally brought it to the lab. Now everything was finally in one place: the humanoid, the mobile robot, the drone, and me. And we have almost no time left. So at this point, we have roughly around 8 hours left until the morning of 15th of August. So I knew I wasn't sleeping tonight. So the first major task was the chassis. The old chassis wasn't suitable for what I wanted to do. So I decided to rebuild the base. I removed the existing structure and started working on plywood and aluminum component. There were a ridiculous number of screws and I had to remove everything, measure the mounting point, mark the drilling location, and make sure the humanoid would sit properly on the new base. I used the power tools available in our IA lab to drill the mounting hole. Then came the most satisfying part, putting everything together. I aligned the robot, drilled the remaining holes, added the supported bracket, and started tightening everything. It took almost 3 hours just to get the base properly attached. I was exhausted. But when I finally placed the humanoid robot on top of the chassis, it actually looked solid. The center of mass was low, the structure felt very sturdy, and there was very little chance of robot for topple over or when it is moving around. So that was the huge relief. But looking good isn't enough. We had to test it. For the drive system, I used my Citron motor driver controlled to DC motor, DC motors. So I connected it to my FlySky transmitter and started working on the electronics. The motor wires had been disconnected for a very long time, so I had to reconnect everything, solder every electronics part which is missing there. And I even used a hot glue gun to hold some of the wires in place because at that moment I couldn't find any zip ties. So at this moment I was really tired, it was late, but somehow robotics give me energy when you're working on something you actually care about. I connected lithium ferrous phosphate battery, powered everything up, and finally gave the robot its first command. Forward, backward, left, right, and it worked. But there was a small problem with the base while it is moving. So there was some vibration during the rotation because of the four-wheel differential drive system. The robot is very heavy and the tire have quite a lot of traction. So rotating in place create a lot of force, and this overall cancellation of force create a small amount of vibration on the base part. That's why the robot start shaking around. But overall the base worked and another problem solved. By this time it was around 2:30 in the morning and I was absolutely exhausted, but we have only few hours left, so I started working on the arm. The arm uses regular hobby RC servos which doesn't have that kind of feedback and positioning capability. So I need to recalibrate everything. I need to take out the entire servo motor and I need to map or calibrate all of the servo motor to be at the center point or at 90°. And after that I tested all of those electronics one by one. I connected the electronics, checked the servo position, adjust the angle, mounted everything back together. This alone took almost 2 hours and suddenly it was 5:25 a.m. The sun was coming up and here you can see some of the banners and posters were already attached in our college platform, and my robot still needed software. So originally I wanted to control the arm using computer vision and OpenCV. The idea was to use my own movement as a teleoperation interface and make the robot perform a single flag hosting motion. But at this point there simply wasn't enough time for all the calibration and debugging required. So I switched to something I already built a year ago, an old controller. So I have developed this controller using my college year using an ESP32. So using ESP32 I am sending the position data from a potentiometer wirelessly to the other ESP32 that is connected to the my humanoid robot, and it will take that exact data and move the servo motor based on that value. And honestly that was probably one of the best decisions I made that night. And I connected the ESP32, sent the servo position over Wi-Fi and started testing the arm, and finally the arm was moving. The response was actually pretty good. At this point I could finally see the entire system coming together. One of my mentor also got a DJI Neo 2 drone and I got the opportunity to test some of its features. Some of the aerial shots you have seen in this video was captured using that drone, and honestly that drone was incredible. So definitely someday when I will be having a good number of budget, I will definitely try to have this drone, because this is really amazing to take, a footage or videos at very high quality with every angle. But after all of these, the weather, start getting worse, raining again, and now I had a problem. I couldn't safely take all the robot electronics outside to actually perform the flag hosting demonstration, and everything we have done, I couldn't risk damaging the electronics just for the shot. So I had to change the plan. So I collected all my projects and arranged them together. Some of the project you see here belong to my mentor, including the aircraft project. It wasn't exactly the Independence Day demonstration I had imagined, but we still did it. At the end of the day, I didn't get the perfect shot I imagined. The humanoid robot didn't get to perform the flag hosting exactly the way I had planned. The drone crashed, the chassis needed, repairs, the software gave me headaches. It rained and I barely slept. And I spent almost 2 days trying to make everything work, but honestly, I'm still happy. Because for me, this wasn't only about making a robot raise a flag. It was about taking something I had built, something that I had been sitting unused for a long time, bringing it back to life and trying to do something meaningful with it. And at the end of everything, the most important thing is still the flag. It's about respecting our country and what Independence Day represents. The project may not have, gone exactly according to the plan, but the journey was worth it. And if there is one thing I learned from the entire experience, it's this: start earlier, because doing an robotics project overnight before Independence Day is probably not the smartest engineering decision I have ever made. This entire experience reminded me why I love building robot in the first place. So that's my story of how I tried to make my humanoid robot celebrate India's Independence Day. So this is all about this video. Hope you enjoyed the entire blog or this video, and happy Independence Day to all of you, and always be happy. Always, try to create something impactful, so try to create something better for the nation. If you are taking something from the world, then it is our responsibility to give it back in a certain way. So try to do it much better way. It doesn't require a very huge amount of sacrifices, but small sacrifices would make a big improvement. So try to do all of those, and due to some reason we are not able to do the exact thing that we have planned in our blog that we want to complete here. But yeah, we all tried, and that's all matter. And happy Independence Day to all of you again. And this is all about this video. And if you like the content, then please like and subscribe my channel. And if you are in robotics field, then this is a channel you should be part of, because I am also uploading some of the projects, open source project, or a lot of different courses are already upcoming. So you can be part of this channel, and hope you enjoyed the entire journey. So this is all about this video. I am Vikas. I love robotics, and we also love robotics. See you next time. Till then, bye.